Okay, thank you everybody for joining us. We are starting up again, unlocking the closed book, going through the prayers. We'll do it for a little bit. We'll see how long. Maybe we'll change topics after the high holidays. But I thought it'd be important. We haven't done it in a little while. It'd be important to get a better understanding of the Shema. That's what we're holding as we get closer to the high holidays. In the evening, Monday nights, we're talking general, and then we're going to get into the Machzer. During this class, I want to get a better understanding of the Shema, remind ourselves of some of the things we spoke about beforehand, and move on. So if you have an article sitter, it's page 92 in the Hebrew, 93 in the English. If not, that's fine. We're just going to do a little bit inside. So we're middle of the Vahafta, really close to the end of the Vahafta. And I just want to sort of recap what we talked about and then move forward because some of the things we talked about are extremely important, and it's been a little while. So we first talked about the concept of Vahafta. There's an obligation of loving God. And Vahafta Hashem Elokecha, there's an obligation of loving God. And that's how we start off the Shema. We sing it, right? However way you say it, right? But there's a biblical obligation of loving God. And the question was, how do we love? Love is an emotion, feelings, right? You build it up through relationship. How do you have an obligation of ve'ahavta, right, to love God? And the answer really is simple, like we just said. Right? The answer is that the obligation of loving God is by the actions that we do will bring us to love. We spoke about this idea of Hollywood fairy tale of love, right? Is love at first sight. It's just Hollywood, right? Yes, there are certain attractions, the look of someone, but there's certain things that the other features that the other person has that you like, right? And then the longer you hang out with them, the deeper the love gets and the stronger the love becomes. It's otherwise called infatuation, right? But the actual love, right, is a concept of building it up, right, and connecting through a relationship, through recognizing what they have to offer, recognizing what you want to have to offer. So as when it says you have to love Hashem your God, the mitzvah of loving Hashem your God more is the idea of reflecting and looking at how I could build this relationship to build that love. And it's not all or nothing. And it's not just instant, oh, God, ooh, I love God, right? No, it's a relationship. It's looking around, seeing what God is offering you, seeing what you're offering God. And when you do things for the person that you want to create a relationship, by doing actions, by doing things that builds the relationship, that builds love. We know this. Someone that sits on the couch, right, and does nothing for the other person, there's a lack of love there, and there's a lack of relationship. When you do something for the other person, and of course the other person appreciates it, right, and you don't feel like a doormat, right, but you actually feel appreciation, and you're doing it because you love the person, that actually inherently builds that love for that person. It makes it stronger, and then vice versa. And so too, the what we do shows our actions of loving God or not loving God. So let's move on. That's the beginning. Again, this is more of just a recap of what we spoke about. It says, B'chol levavcha, with all your heart. Now, what's all your heart? So we spoke about this. Levavcha is plural, with both of your hearts, with your Yetzer Tov, with your Yetzer Hara. We spoke about this in other classes. We spoke about this many times, right? That it's our the B'chol levavcha, with all your hearts, means to say with that you have to take the evil inclination, right? The different attributes that you have, that desires that you have, and curve those towards working with God. So if you have a desire for honor, right? So then you should do mitzvos, do things that will give you honor, but at least that they're mitzvahs, that they're good things. Eventually, if you keep on doing it, it'll transform you, and you'll do it for the right reason. But you have to do the mitzvahs. You have to do things because, you got to go ahead and use that desire that you have for honor, right, or for fame, right, or you want to be rich, right? But use those things to go ahead and build that relationship with God, right? So b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, even if you have to put your life on the line, and sometimes we think that this is not applicable to us, right? How is this applicable to us? Thank God, we're living, we're safe, right? So we spoke about, it's a concept of Mesiras Nefesh, of dedication, of where you have to give up things that are precious to you, right? And thank God our lives are not on the line, right? There might be certain places in the country that are worse than they used to be, and we pray every day that they get better. There might be countries in the world that are worse than America. That's for sure. We pray for them, and they have to act in accordance to make sure that they don't get that they don't become too complacent, and be careful about it. But generally, thank God, in our days, we don't really have to put our lives on the line to keep the mitzvot. It's not a big deal. So, what is b'chol nafshecha? How does b'chol nafshecha how does that fit with our lifestyle? How does that fit with the way we live? So the commentaries explain that b'chol nafshecha really embodies, as we said, giving up, recognizing your priorities for things that you really want. Your soul is yearning for it. You're not your soul. Sorry. Your physical body is yearning for it. Your physical body is yearning for a good sandwich. Now, it's not kosher, right? It's not kosher, and until you be able to get down to Gili's to get a good kosher sandwich, right, or a good slice of pizza from Oren, right, or whatever it is, or from different caterers in town, good kosher food, it might take time, or you have to go to the store and get it and then make your own sandwich. So you are now really sort of giving up part of your nafshecha, not your literal life, but you're giving up part of your physical desires. You are for the sake of heaven, right, for doing mitzvot, you are showing your priorities, and you're willing to give up something. Say the commentaries, that is b'chol nafshecha, right? Willing to give up, right, on some of the physical things in the world, right, for a relationship with God. So that could be also, yes, could be not watching, Saturday football, right? College football, it's on Saturday. If you want to have a relationship with God, right, and not watch television on Shabbat, right, or it interferes with going to services. This year, Rosh Hashanah is on Shabbos, Shabbos Sunday, right? Are we gonna give up? Are we gonna give some of our nefesh, our physical life, some of the pleasures of our physical life? Sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't have to be our full life. Sacrifice is sacrificing some of the things that we want. That is b'chol nafshecha. That's something that we have to reflect on, and it's very apropos, it's very effective in our daily lives, something that happens all the time, in whatever stage of life you're in. Wherever you're holding in life, and there's always something that you have to be careful and reflect on, hey, I might have to sacrifice this. If it's a little more sleep, right? If it's a football game, if it's going to a certain place which is not kosher, we have to think about it, right? About b'chol nafshecha, the concept of sacrifice. Let's move on. B'chol me'odecha. What is b'chol me'odecha? B'chol me'odecha, say the commentaries, right, is with all your resources, right? With all your resources, right? So the Talmud says memoncha, your money, right? So not necessarily your money, but your resources. It means to say that you have to look at everything that you have, all the gifts that God gave you. We spoke about this morning in the Morning Minute, concept of gratitude. And we have to first recognize that God gave us gifts. If it's a nice voice, right? If it's ability to be financially safe and be able to be business savvy. If it's the ability to be able to draw nicely. If it's ability to talk. It's ability to communicate with people. And whatever it is, we all have different strengths, different resources that God gave us in the physical, emotional, right, within ourselves, external. We have many resources. we have to look at those resources and say, how could I serve God with those resources? How do I do that? How am I able to serve God with those resources? That's b'chol me'odecha, and with all your resources. So the first verse, I'd say the commentaries, again, this is sort of recapping. I'm going to go through a little quicker, right? But say the commentaries, the first verse in the V'ahavta, the famous V'ahavta, that we all say, doesn't make a difference what denomination you are, right? We say Shema Yisrael, and we sing the first paragraph of Shema, which is the V'ahavta. The first verse of V'ahavta, say the commentary starts off, V'ahavta, you have to love Hashem your God. And say the commentaries, even though we explained each one individually, but say the commentaries, how do you show your love to God? How do you show it? By saying, B'chol levavcha, with all your heart, by taking the evil inclination and making them part of your service to God. By B'chol nafscha, by be willing to sacrifice either your physical life, thank God we don't have that struggle nowadays, but being willing to sacrifice some of the pleasures of life, some of the things that you feel you need, some of the things that are part of your daily routine, and b'chol miyodecha, and utilizing your resources that God gave you to go ahead, right, and to build that relationship with God. To go ahead and find those resources and use them for good and not for evil, or just using, or not, or you could use them for regular, but then also using it for good, right? You can be business savvy, make a good living and have a good house, not using it for evil, but then go ahead and use it for something positive. Help a Jewish organization to be more financially good, right? Make sure that if you have a good voice, right, you could sing or whatever, but don't use it for evil, but then also use it for good. Inspire people. So we have to go ahead and use all our resources for the service of God. That's how we show our v'ahavta, our love for our relationship with God, right? And say the commentaries, that's for everything, right? That's also for a relationship with our spouses. We take everything that we have, we have to sacrifice, right? Maybe it's a good day to watch sports or whatever, hang out with friends, but your wife needs something, right? Or your family needs something. And, yeah, okay, but you know that she really doesn't want. So hang out with the family. Co-workers, synagogues, right? Jewish organizations, right? This is building a relationship, right? You need to use all of your heart. It means to say even your things that are seemingly evil inclination-wise, haughtiness, desires for certain things. Let's curve that into a positive, and be willing to sacrifice chol nafshecha, and b'chol miyodecha, with all your resources, with all your abilities that God gave you, right? We got to go ahead and make sure that we curve that towards a relationship with God. So that's the first verse. Let's move on. The next verse says, "V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela," right? And it will be these words, right? These words, and let these words, right? Asher anochi mitzavacha hayom, that I have commanded you today. Alav avecha, let it be on your heart. Right? So what are these words? All right? Let these words, hadvarim, these words. So we spoke about before many times that the idea of dvarim, words, right, are also a dibor could be referring to the 10 commandments, right? They're called Aseres HaDibros, the 10 dibros. Now it's not 10 words. We translate it as words, but it's not really 10 words, right? It's 10 sayings. It's 10 statements, right? And dvarim also word is words, but also davar. It also is an object, right? The thing. And so how do words transform into things? Why is in the Hebrew language the two things the same thing? So the commentaries explain, like we've explained in the past, and that our words create reality. And the words that we say, the words that we learn, and the words of God create reality. And it says, and God created the world with Eser Mamar, with 10 statements. Right? With this reality that's created through our words, we might not see it. Sometimes we see it. You say something and things happen. But also in the spiritual realm, we have to understand that our words create positive or negative. We have to be very careful with our words, right? But say the commentaries over here, it's referring to, that's a little side concept. Now, the commentaries explain that over here, it's referring to these words that I've commanded you, means the Torah should be alavavcha, should be on your heart. So let's just pause for a second on what it means alavavcha. We'll explain in a minute. What does it mean? I'm commanding you today. Today is 2020. Difficult year, right? 5780. We're almost at 5781. Let's hope 5781 will be a much better year than 5780. Even though it started off good, right? But halfway through, went a little cuckoo. And today, God didn't command me anything. 3,500 years ago, God commanded me. That's when God commanded me, 3,500 years ago, with the giving of the Torah. Okay, so we have that. So he said, "Shanoki mitzavacha mitzavchem," that I commanded you right back in the past. Why does it say mitzavcha ayom? I'm commanding you today. So say the commentaries, and this is something very important that we have to understand. That every day there's as if a new commandment that we have to keep the mitzvahs. Every day when we open up our eyes and God woke us up in the morning, it's as if there's a new commandment. We are being re-commanded every day. We're reminding ourselves every day, and that we received the Torah thousands of years ago. And say the commentaries that it's more for us to reflect on. We have to look at it as if today we were commanded. You know, it's human nature. When you hear something new, right? You have a new concept, get all into it. It's exciting, it's great. Let's get into it. Let's do it. It's something okay, whatever. It's something that's old. Okay, when I get around to it, I'll get to it. When I get around to it, I'll get to it. But you know, it's whatever. It's something old. I don't have to be so excited about it. Say the commentaries that we have to go. How do we make sure that we do the Torah, we do the mitzvos, we build our relationship with God? It's by when we look at the commandments as fresh every day. It's brand new, fresh mitzvot every day. It's as if today God commanded me to do it. And if we look at it, if we put a mindset that it's brand new, get excited about it, something different, something new. I want to be part of it. So that's say the commentaries. We have to look at it. We have to regard it as it's not ancient. We have to regard it as it's today. And more importantly, we have to regard it as it's applicable today. Everything of the Torah is applicable today. It's not because it was 3,000 years ago. No, every aspect of the Torah is applicable in 2020. You might not understand all of it. We spoke about it in the Morning Minute yesterday. We might have difficulties, but if we dig deep down, we'll see that everything has applications today. The way our lives are today, there's applications. And therefore, we have to look at it as if the commandments are applicable for today too, not just 2,000 years ago. But the commandments are applicable today, just as they were applicable when God gave it to us originally. So when we say, these words, the commandments, the mitzvos that God gave us, I'm commanding you today, means to say two phases. Number one, there's as if we'd be commanded every day. And we have to have it fresh, as if we have to look at it, say, hey, we're like, as if we're being commanded every day. Today is a fresh day. It's to be new to us. It's to be something old, but to be fresh and new. And then also say the commentaries that we have to realize that it's applicable today, not just for 2,000, 3,000 years ago. No, the commandments are all applicable today, just as they were applicable 3,000 years ago. Today, the commandments are applicable. It would be mitzvah, will be commanded for these commandments and these mitzvot for today, not for just for the past. What does it mean, alavavcha? What does it mean on your heart? What does it mean on your heart? Right? So we've spoken about this many times, that I would say mocha, in your brain. Right? The heart is desires. The heart is, it's not the intellect part of us. Why do we say the Torah should be on our heart? Right? We said that before also. So we spoke about two hearts, evil inclination, good inclination. But over here it says that mitzvah should be alavavcha on your heart. It should be alamocha, your brain. Right? That's our intellect. That's our thought. So say the commentaries, right? That's something very beautiful. And we spoke about this in the past also, right? That in Judaism, when we speak about relationships, we speak about learning, we speak about connection, we always refer to the heart. We don't speak about the moach, the brain. We speak about the heart. And the commentaries explain is because ultimately we have to get our desires in sync with the Torah, because we could be intellectually geniuses and we could think one way and another way, but at the end of the day, it's our desires that control us. If we want that piece of chocolate cake, I can make 100 reasons to say why it's important for me to have a chocolate cake, even though I know that it's not good for me. Even though I know. And everything else. I really want to I intellectually understand my relationship with God, and intellectually understand I should keep kosher, intellectually understand that's where I keep it more, intellectually I understand that I should keep a little more Shabbat, intellectually I understand I should start making blessings, intellectually I understand that I should be nice to other people, intellectually I understand that if it's not in the heart, it's not in my desires, intellectually could go out the window when I get into the situation. We don't think with our hearts. We don't think with our brains. We do with our hearts. So we do with our hearts. And therefore, say the commentaries, that's what it says. The Torah is teaching us. We should say, al levavcha, right? On your heart, right? Meaning to say that we have to make sure that the Torah is in sync with our desires. We have to put it there. We have to say, hey, I need to build my desires to fit with God, to fit with the Torah. That when I get into a struggle, my desires went out. Now we do that through learning. We do it through talking to ourselves. And we do it by seeing things intellectually and then saying, hey, let's talk to ourselves and make our heart, our neshama, our soul, and part of ourselves, hey, this is the right thing to do, and we have to keep on doing that. But that's how we do it. We do it through making sure that it's in our heart, right? And not just in our brain. And the more we build it in our heart, the more we will start doing what we're supposed to be doing, because it's in our heart. Okay, so we're going to stop here today. All right, today was just sort of an introduction. We're going to stop here. We're not going to finish the whole V'ahavta. God willing, next week we'll start up from here. But I just want to close with one idea, just a general idea of the things we talked about, and then we'll end today's class here. So a general idea, just a quick recap, and a general idea we're talking about over here is we have to realize that as we started off the Shema, and we spoke about this for many weeks when we had the class, right? We said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Listen, O Israel, God is one. Right? We spoke about that. This is really the accepting upon ourselves the yoke of heaven. Right? This is the fundamental belief of the Jewish people, right? And what are we doing after that? We say this V'ahavta. We're saying that loving God, right? And recognizing our what we have to do to love God, and as we spoke about, right, putting it on your hearts and willing to sacrifice and utilizing all our resources, right, and realizing that it's applicable today. That's all part of the core belief of Shema Yisrael. It's all part of it, right? We listen, oh God, God is one, right? We spoke about Hashem, Elokeinu, right? The merciful God, the practical God, right? The judgment God, and it's really one. It's all merciful God. We just don't understand it. And listen, O Israel, people say this on their deathbed. People say this when they're in trouble. We say it every day, 3 times a day, twice in prayers, one before we go to sleep. And we say the V'ahavta also, because the V'ahavta is a continuation. The V'ahavta is a continuation. There's no real break. The V'ahavta is a continuation of this core belief that we have to build within ourselves. The same way we believe that Shema Yisrael, of the God is one, merciful and practical, and judgment God, it's all one. So too these ideas of V'ahavta, this idea of loving God and building the relationship with God, and we also have to understand it's all part of the belief in God. It's all part of the emunah that we have to install within ourselves. So wishing everybody a wonderful day and a beautiful day. Please join us tomorrow for a lunch and learn. sponsored by Mike and Sherry Herring. Right, the topic is Faith in Time of Darkness, and that will be at 12 o'clock tomorrow. So please join us for that, and join us for other live classes coming next week. We have a new WhatsApp group, so if you want daily quick updates and not to get lost in your emails, so please join us on the WhatsApp group. You can find it on the Time website. You can find it on Facebook. You can just message me, and I'll be more than happy to send you the link. Everybody have a wonderful day.